welcome to A Good Walk Spoiled, Adventures in Golf, hosted by Scott Poniewaz, also known as @PonyGolf. Hello and welcome to another episode of A Good Walk Spoiled. I am your host, Scott Poniewaz. Thanks for joining us again, our second episode about to hit. And today I kind of followed on the theme of posting Augusta just ahead of Augusta, and one of my other favorites, we're going to sort of dive into some stuff related to the next tour stop, which is the signature event at the RBC Heritage at Harbour Town in Hilton Head, South Carolina. So today's episode is going to dive in a little bit into Pete Dye and his background. And so we're going to focus on some of the golf architecture, a little bit of his legacy. And then I'll also hit on some interesting tidbits about the RBC Heritage and some of the interesting little things that you may not know about that particular tournament. And for our Chips, Bites, and Flights segment, we're going to focus on none other than Hilton Head Island, a sort of golfer's mecca of sorts. So stay tuned. Looking forward to having you join me through today's episode, and be sure to hit that subscribe, and don't be afraid to leave comments or slide into my DMs and share any feedback you have. So without further ado, let's jump right in. In this segment, we're going to celebrate the life and legacy of someone who's considered probably one of the most influential figures in golf course architecture. Love him or hate him, Pete Dye. I know that there are sort of two camps as far as how people feel about Pete Dye's golf designs, and he's got some incredible courses from TPC Sawgrass, or others like Whistling Straits on the shore of Lake Michigan, which I've been fortunate enough to play, or the upcoming Harbour Town Golf Links. And so today we're going to jump into a few highlights about Pete Dye. We're going to kick off first, just kind of jumping into a few of his signature design features. And Pete Dye was known for his innovative and challenging golf course designs. And one of his signature design features was the use of railroad ties, which he incorporated into many of his courses. And these railroad ties essentially created these distinctive visual elements and strategic challenges, not to mention some fairly deep bunkers if you found yourself into some of those troubled areas. Additionally, Dye was known for his strategic placement of hazards. So pot bunkers and water features, which often required golfers to carefully navigate the course and essentially work backwards from the hole in many cases, especially when they would sort of funnel in at standard either driving distances or miss areas within the course. Between those railroad ties and some of the interesting bunkering and strategic placements of water features, some of these design elements were items that became very synonymous with Pete Dye's style and have left a lasting impact on the world of golf course architecture. So to sort of further move along into his influence on modern golf course architecture, definitely can't be overstated. His designs often would challenge conventional thinking and push a lot of the boundaries, especially in the time that he was building, push those boundaries of what a golf course could be. Many contemporary architects do cite Dye as a major influence, and his design principles continue to shape the way that golf courses are built today. So from the use of natural terrain to his emphasis on strategic shot making, his legacy definitely lives on in the courses that many of us play and love today, whether they were designed by Dye himself or simply influenced by a lot of the architecture that he's sort of had the impact on. Diving in a little more into some of those notable golf courses, he's had some of the most iconic golf courses in the world that have his thumbprint on. TPC Sawgrass, which is home of the famous Island Green on the 17th hole. Also, perhaps one of the more famous holes in professional golf these days. There's also Whistling Straits with rugged terrain, its small pot bunkers, stunning views of Lake Michigan. It's a Dye masterpiece. If you ever have the chance to play Whistling Straits, it's one of those courses where it just makes you forget where you are in the world. The approach through the farmland of Wisconsin, near Sheboygan, Wisconsin, a little north of Milwaukee. When you arrive at Whistling Straits, you feel like you're perhaps on the shores of Ireland. The winds on Lake Michigan can often get blowing as hard as Ireland. Fortunately, when I've played it, I've been very lucky that the winds were not howling. But between its undulating fairways, some of the interesting vantage points, and the way that the funnel of the fairways can often put you into trouble if you don't play your shots correctly, make Whistling Straits just an incredible challenge. The other aspect of it is, and I probably should have checked the exact number and tried to find this fact, but his bunkering on Whistling Straits is some of the most challenging. Sometimes you can funnel off into these small little finger-like bunkers where you can barely even sneak a wedge in under your ball to sort of chip it up and over. Just the extensive use of fescue and tall grasses. And he does have several of the holes with significant drops off. John Daly has his historic par 3 challenge of one of the highest scores in golf, where he ultimately missed the green so much, put it into the water, that he also managed to have one of the highest scores in PGA Tour history on a golf hole. Pete Dye's golf courses can definitely challenge the best of them. And I spent a little time there on Whistling Straits, but let's not forget about Harbour Town Golf Links, which will host the upcoming RBC Heritage. And it's a classic Pete Dye design that also sort of is a classic Harbour Town design. Narrow fairways. I think it actually is one of the narrowest fairway courses on the PGA Tour. Also has very small greens. It also incorporates some of the railroad ties throughout the course. And, being being Hilton Head, there is plenty of water around as well, which makes for some very interesting, challenging holes. Those tight fairways, despite it being, a fairly short course, make it a very difficult course, especially with a lot of the golfers on the PGA Tour. Interesting fact, I just actually had heard just this past week, but average fairways hit off the tee for the PGA is closer to about 20%. whereas it sort of sits in that 20 to 30% range versus in the LPGA, golfers tend to hit closer to 70 to 80% of fairways. So you just look at that type of a statistic, and it also makes sense why a course like Harbour Town, where you miss the fairways and you're quickly OB and in trouble, a course like Harbour Town is sometimes not a favorite on the PGA Tour for that reason. It really favors the accurate drivers off the tee, and it's also a course where you do see people leaving the driver in the bag a little bit more in those PGA Tour events. Again, Harbour Town, another classic Pete Dye design, definitely very different from Whistling Straits, which, was highlighted and, really showcased during the Ryder Cup when America got to host it last. Pete Dye's legacy, it just also extends far beyond the golf courses he designed. He was a visionary that really loved to push the boundaries of golf course architecture, and he really changed the way that golf architecture influenced golfers and the way that we have to think about the game. And his influence can be seen in countless courses that he designed, as well as from the many architects that he mentored and inspired. And so while, he may no longer be with us, his impact has definitely been made and will impact the world of golf for generations to come. So, we'll transition over to our next segment here. Just a second. Over to some facts about the RBC Heritage Golf Tournament. All right, welcome back. And RBC Heritage Week is coming up, also known as the Heritage Classic. Today we're going to highlight some interesting tidbits to get you all prepped for this now considered signature event. Before we do jump into that, while I was sort of getting ready for this segment, between segments, I quick fact checked the Whistling Straits bunker number 1012 is, according to the Googles, and Pete Dye was quoted as saying, somewhere over 1,000 bunkers, but somebody meticulously must have gone out and tried to count all 1,012 bunkers that are at Whistling Straits. Pretty impressive. I definitely found my way into more than a few of those in my round of golf there, but it's, a good walk spoiled. So beautiful views, though, with the terraced fairways that sort of stack up against one another. You can pretty much see the water from almost every hole on the Whistling Straits property, which is pretty special and pretty spectacular. Played in an amateur players tour event there. Didn't quite finish in the top of the leaderboard, but it was a great day regardless. All right, so without further ado, jumping into the RBC Heritage, move away from Whistling Straits, despite it being one of the classic and great courses. So here we are with some interesting facts. The inaugural event. So RBC Heritage, which was originally known as the Heritage Classic, was first held in 1969, which actually makes it one of the longest running PGA Tour events. It's been hosted annually at Harbour Town Golf Links in Hilton Head, South Carolina. The famous red and white lighthouse, which adorns the television broadcasts behind the 18th green. So the inaugural tournament was won by none other than Mr. Arnold Palmer. His victory helped to solidify the event's place on the PGA Tour calendar, and because of his win, that attracted attention from players around the world. The other item is the unique trophy. So with the Masters, there is a trophy, obviously, but there's also the green jacket. With the RBC Heritage, there is another unique jacket that the winner receives, and that is the famous plaid jacket instead of a traditional trophy. They do have a trophy that stays in the clubhouse, but the RBC Heritage jacket is a distinctive green reddish plaid design that reflects the tournament's Scottish heritage, and it's another one that adds to its unique charm. The environmental focus of the RBC Heritage is another sort of interesting thing. And, there's plenty that we could go into about Hilton Head and a lot of the unique environmental sustainability things that have gone on from its inception as a tourist destination, and some of the various decisions that were made with the development of property around Hilton Head Island as a whole. But the Heritage is known for its commitment to environmental sustainability, and it takes place on Hilton Head Island, and the organizers work very diligently to minimize the environmental impact through initiatives such as waste reduction, recycling, and wildlife conservation efforts. Aside from some of those that happen directly at the course through the event itself, one of the other interesting things is because of sea turtle migration and some other factors that happen throughout the year, there are a lot of interesting things that Hilton Head Island as a whole does. So I might be getting ahead of myself on sort of the Hilton Head destination guide part, but there's a lack of streetlights. The other thing too is the buildings within Hilton Head have been designed to be low-rise buildings, so that they don't necessarily go up above the tree lines. So as you're driving into Hilton Head Island, it's quite fascinating because all the strip malls and different shopping centers and things like that, they don't have lit signs. So it's probably one of the few locations in the world where McDonald's, as an example, doesn't have their big yellow golden arches that you can see in the distance as you're driving down the roads. It's actually a low-rise, low sign, sort of very difficult to see. And a lot of this stuff is because they want to minimize the light and also the impact on the island itself to keep that natural charm, that natural environment, the tree-lined streets, and sort of preserve a lot of that nature that Hilton Head Island is known for. And the lack of lighting helps with sea turtle migrations so that they aren't stressed when they're in their mating seasons and laying seasons. So the environmental focus. So Harbour Town Golf Links. So the course is a renowned Pete Dye design course, known for its narrow fairways, small greens, and the challenging layout we already discussed a little earlier. And it's really become a favorite and also hated venue among players and fans alike. Just a great challenge. So one of the most iconic features is the backdrop of Calibogue Sound. The scenic views of the waterway, the marshland that's around, especially as you kind of come up 17 into 18. The iconic lighthouse, the red and white lighthouse, red and white lighthouse, not White House, that forms the backdrop for the 18th hole as the finisher. Just creates this totally picturesque setting. Even that 18th shot over the marshland and the water, long drive, and then that long second shot into the green, into a small protected green with bunkering up front. Just the sound just makes a great backdrop, including the marina and everything right there. So great destination for fans and the players alike. The next little factoid, the Tartan Invitational. So the RBC Heritage has strong ties to Scottish heritage, as evidenced by its unique trophy and plaid jacket. In addition, the tournament hosts the Tartan Invitational, which is a special event that honors top collegiate golfers around the country and also celebrates the game's roots in Scotland. Charitable contributions. So, like many PGA Tour events, the RBC Heritage is committed to giving back to the community. So over the years, the tournament has raised millions and millions of dollars for local charities and organizations, and it's made a positive impact on the lives of residents in the Hilton Head Island area. And that even goes along with some of the young golfers that help carry signs and participate as volunteers for the tournament, which is a great opportunity for young golfers to interact with these PGA players and have that excitement that comes along with it. So who are some of the notable champions? The RBC Heritage boasts an impressive list of past champions, including golf legends that I mentioned earlier, like Arnold Palmer, who won the very first, but others include Jack Nicklaus, Tom Watson, Greg Norman, and so each year you get a very competitive field of top players that vie for the chance to join the prestigious list of winners. And it in previous years had sort of had a little bit of a fallout as far as who was playing, because it falls around the Masters. It was seeing quite a few players sort of skip the event after the rigorous Augusta week. However, now as a signature event, you're seeing more of those top players coming back to the Heritage, which is great to see. And I'm kind of glad that PGA has done this, which is pretty good, and should see a more competitive field returning to Harbour Town in this year as well as years to come. So as I kind of spoke to a few moments ago, the RBC Heritage prides itself on being super family friendly. So they have activities, entertainment for fans of all ages. So if you ever get a chance to go, there's a lot of stuff going on around the actual rounds of golf for fans of all ages. And they have fan zones and junior golf clinics and all these other things that create a really welcoming environment for families and youth golfers, and really fosters a love of the game for future generations. So hopefully some of these facts are new and gave you some insights into the history, tradition, and unique characteristics of the golf tournament. I actually haven't been to the event itself, so I'm not 100% sure. But if you do actually go to the event, be sure to check out in the clubhouse, which might actually be closed off. But if you do go and get the opportunity to play, make sure you give yourself a few extra minutes to go in the sort of history room that highlights Pete Dye and his golf architecture, and gives you a chance to learn a little bit more about some of the ways that he did make an impact on design, from different drainage techniques to some of his railroad tie designs, and even some of the golf course maintenance that he helped with pioneering back in the day. So some cool little mementos, I guess, and tools and machinery that he had used during his golf course design, as well as his maintenance of the courses. So struggled to get through that there at the end, but all right, so hang tight. A little word from one of our sponsors, and we will be right back. And a quick word from one of our partners, Mullybox. If you're not familiar with Mullybox, Mullybox is a subscription service where every 3 months you receive a surprise of a variety of different golf accessories or clothing. They have two different options. They have the Mullybox and the apparel box. With the Mullybox, basically get 2 times your value. So every 3 months, you'll receive an awesome curated box of golf gear. Got it pictured here. One of the ones that I received recently, that is 50% off of typical pro shop prices. So with the Mullybox sort of variety pack, you'll get the polo, usually a glove, golf accessories, and a training aid. With the Mullybox apparel box, it's typically $150 value. You'll get a new golf outfit every 3 months. And this typically includes a polo, hat, and golf socks. So if you're ready to get your own Mullybox and subscribe today, then you can do so by heading over to mullybox.com, and you can go to mullybox.com/pony_golf. I'll include that little text down here below. Or if you just want to go straight over to mullybox.com, you can just use my code, which is PONY_GOLF. That's pony_golf. And that's going to save you 30% off your Mullybox subscription, and it will appear when you apply your code at checkout. So go check out Mullybox, mullybox.com, and get yours today. To A Good Walk Spoiled. Here we are jumping into the chips, bites, and flights section, highlighting none other than Hilton Head Island. So one of my now favorite destinations, Hilton Head Island, is a golf mecca and just a great location for families and, for the guys' golf trips or the ladies' golf trips or the couples golf trips, whatever it needs to be. That being said, I first was exposed to Hilton Head Island when I went for the Golf Week Amateur National Championship Golf Tournament, which was hosted pretty much every October. It still goes on. I just don't play in the Golf Week Amateur Tour anymore. I kind of transferred over to the Amateur Players Tour, but then also having moved from the East Coast out to Montana, it's just gotten a little more challenging to play in any of those amateur tours without too much travel. When I was living in New York, it was easy to play in the New York events, the New Jersey events, the Philly events, the upstate New York events. And so I would kind of play in a little bit of the Golf Week, a little bit of the Amateur Player Tour events, and some others. But yeah, long story short, Hilton Head Island got me pulled in, and then I'd start going for extended periods of time where I'd go for almost a month, and I'd just rent a condo down there and golf throughout and work, and especially sort of at the tail end of COVID and in the heart of COVID, being in New York, I kind of had escaped down to Hilton Head to play a little bit more golf down there. And so it was a place that definitely grew on me quite a bit. And I still go back periodically. I've actually had the opportunity to most recently go back. What what did that have been? I think October or November this past year. I'm pretty sure it was October, or maybe it was September. But I went for the Kingdom Cup. For those of you that are not familiar, Kingdom is a longstanding golf publication that covers a lot of the historical events within the golf world. It also talks a lot about sort of the golf lifestyle, a lot of products, and sort of the tangential sort of country club life of scotches and watches and destination guides and things like that. Sort of go beyond just golf, but also the golf lifestyle. But they host a Kingdom Cup every year that is honestly one of the most exceptional golf events that I've been able to attend. It was hosted at the Sonesta Resort this past year. And I'm going to sort of put a little asterisk in here. I'm not being paid to promote this or anything. I'm just talking about my experience. The Kingdom Cup is held in Hilton Head Island every year. I guess it's been done now the past 3-4 years, maybe. They bring in a bunch of notable people to be special featured guests at the tournament, which makes it pretty spectacular. They also hosted at some top-notch private clubs, as well as now some of the more public clubs. So last year, like Wexford was a fantastic host to one of the days at the events. This coming year, they are going to host it at Heron Point and Harbour Town Links, which are Harbour Town, we've talked about here before, the host of the RBC Heritage, and Heron Point is another course within the Sea Pines Resort, but both of those are fantastic top-notch courses. And so last year it was pretty incredible because they had Annika Sorenstam. She was one of the sort of special guests, and Matt Kuchar was another. Geno Bonnalie, who is caddie on the PGA Tour, made famous from the Netflix series as well. And then there's also been some other guests in the past, like Roger Steele, Davis Love III. But the person that was the most incredible guest you could have imagined at it was none other than Mr. Jack Nicklaus. And he also signed Harbour Town Golf Links flags. While not the main designer or architect at Harbour Town, which is Pete Dye, as we've discussed, he did have some pretty decent input into the design of the course, and actually was sort of a partner in the design and architecture of Harbour Town, which is pretty cool. So Alexandra O'Laughlin from Golf Channel and around the golf world in general, she actually hosted a interview with Jack Nicklaus. Jack even was sitting on the 18th hole watching people tee off as they finished their final round of the Kingdom Cup. So it was a pretty awesome, very special experience, the Kingdom Cup. So I know that they recently announced tickets, or I guess their registration maybe a month or so ago, but they're going to host another Kingdom Cup at Hilton Head September 12th through 15th. Still TBD on who the big names are going to be. However, I have to say, like, everything from start to finish, arrival to departure to even all the tea gifts that you would return to your room to every night. I had to actually get a separate duffel bag just to haul everything back. But the fireside chats, the golf courses were spectacular. The people that we got to play with were all fantastic, and the food throughout the course of the event was also just phenomenal. The first night, the welcome dinner had prime rib and lobster tails, and the the other dinners would have risotto and fresh seafood and raw bars, and just, start to finish, the whole experience was, I can't say enough. Kingdom Cup. If you can go. It's worth your time, worth your effort, worth your money. And honestly, with everything that you get, I think the weekend is, or maybe it's not a weekend, but the couple days of golf and all the dinners and everything else with open bars, I think it's about $3,500. So if you don't want to plan your own guys trip, and just go along for the ride, this is definitely worth your money. Sorry, tangent, but Kingdom Cup down in Hilton Head, highly recommend. I'm going to go into my other sort of pre-scripted description of Hilton Head. And so my personal recommendations, if you're sort of planning your own trip to Hilton Head, kind of stick to a 3 or 4 day recommended itinerary and some recommendations on some places to stay, as well as places to eat around Hilton Head Island. So hopefully this helps if you're planning your own trip, and whether it's couples or the guys trip or whatever it is. Hopefully these are very helpful. I actually have previously put this into a Thatch guide, which, if you're not familiar, Thatch allows you to basically create these little planners and guides for specific spots. So if you want to go and download this, there's a small fee to help me support my podcasting and my golf addiction. But hopefully these tips kind of help you on where to go. But Hilton Head, hopefully you can head down there to play some of the classics with Harbour Town, the Robert Trent Jones course, or the Fazio course at Palmetto Dunes. And I should also throw in the Arthur Hills course at Palmetto Dunes. All of these are fantastic. The names of a lot of the courses around the island can get a little bit finicky and tricky because they can start to sound similar to one another. So the Atlantic Dunes course at Sea Pines Resort, which is sort of the sister course to Harbour Town, also a great option to play. Harbour Town has no shortage of great food. Also some little beach bar burgers. I'm going to highlight a couple different places to stay. Folly Field Road, Hilton Head beach rentals, a bunch of condos over there. But if you look at Folly Field Road, all sort of set back in this whole resort area, it's got several pools, super affordable. I think they were like around 1,000 or so a week, maybe 1,500 for these 1 to 2 bedroom condos. Some of them even have like bunk beds if you're traveling with a family, but they have 2 pools at them. Highly recommend checking into those if you're not trying to stay at a hotel or a resort. Otherwise, the Omni Resort, great option. They've got their hotel there. Also, you can look at a lot of like house rentals depending on your budget. A great area to consider for an Airbnb or Vrbo or whatever you want to do. The other location to consider is Sea Pines itself. That's definitely going to be a little more on the pricier side, but they do have some great options like the Inn and Club at Harbour Town, which is sort of right near the Harbour Town golf course as well, which makes it easy to grab a bike, ride around in Sea Pines, and use all the Sea Pines amenities. Sonesta Resort Hilton Head is another great option, and that's where I actually stayed for the first time during the Kingdom Cup this last year. Sonesta is well-appointed rooms. They have great eateries on site. They have a great pool, great pool bar. And they also have beach access right out the back. And so Sonesta is another great option, and sort of middle of the road. So it's not too pricey, not too expensive, but very great accommodations. And it's a little bit bigger hotel. So as far as where to eat while you're in Hilton Head, the options are definitely no shortage. There's the quarterdeck, which is right at the lighthouse, and that is a great location. And that is like, right in sort of all the shopping area. So a great place to just go stroll around. There's some, ice cream shops around for the after dinner options. So quarterdeck is a great option, and you're probably not going to get a better view. It's sort of elevated, looking out over the harbor and out over the ocean. So definitely a great option within Sea Pines. Coast is another great restaurant, and I think one of the best, more sort of higher end seafood dining options in Hilton Head, and it is also right on the coast. Several nights a week, they also have live music, which is fun. So even if you want to just go like 5 o'clock and happy hour and get some raw bar appetizers and some drinks on the beach, watch the sunset, great option right there at Coast. The Salty Dog Cafe within Sea Pines is the place that you've seen all the shirts from. So they also typically have some music. It's a little bit of a drive out there because it's sort of very much at the far point of Sea Pines. So if you're not staying in Sea Pines, it can be a little bit of a drive, but it's a nice drive through the whole resort area. Classic burgers, American food, fried food, all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, you're not going there necessarily for the finest meal, but it still is good. One of the ones that is a little more low key, sort of more like South Carolina, almost like backwoods type vibes, great patio, is Fish Camp on Broad Creek. So it feels a little more, sort of classic, off the beaten path-ish. Hilton Head Island in South Carolina. So Fish Camp on Broad Creek is definitely a good option that I recommend. And the last one that I'm going to call out, not very, South Carolina or beach or seafoody necessarily, but one of my staples that I go to quite a bit just because I love French food is Bistro 17, and that's down on the Shelter Cove Harbor. So if you're staying at the Omni, it's actually sort of close to there, and I think, don't hold me to this, I think they even run a shuttle between that sort of marina area with a little bit of shopping. There are a couple of restaurants in there aside from Bistro 17, but Bistro 17 is just great. Sort of neighborhoody feel, French food. I love it down there. They have some outside seating. They also have sort of like their indoor, more French, quiet, darker seating and bar, which I kind of like the vibe at. And a lot of local Hilton Head folks tend to be regulars there. So definitely enjoy Bistro 17 if you have a chance and have the time to go there. Highlighting some of the courses, I mean, there's definitely no shortage of golf courses on Hilton Head Island. If you can get onto some of the privates, go for it and enjoy them. I'm going to just kind of highlight a couple that I touched on earlier in the episode as well as this segment. But before I get into the actual golf courses themselves, I am going to give a major shout out to my golf coach who's over in Bluffton, and he and I met when he was still on the East Coast in New Jersey as a teaching pro at a private club in New Jersey, and that's when he and I first connected, and I first started taking lessons from him. But it's now been a several year process. Big shout out to Bill Schmedes III. He now owns and runs Mastery Golf Performance, which is in Bluffton, and now they've got a couple folks teaching alongside him there. He's also taught alongside Andy Rice over at Andrew Rice over at the Savannah Weston Resort. Bill is also on Skillest, if you're familiar with that online coaching. Bill and I mostly have, over the years, worked with virtual golf lessons where I can send a couple swings here and there. He gives me things to work on. I send him back, how I'm working on it. He sends me feedback if I'm drilling correctly or not. And then, it's just altogether like a great working relationship with Bill. So if you are going to Hilton Head, I highly recommend trying to go over to Mastery Golf Performance and taking a lesson with Bill. So yeah, if you're not going to Hilton Head, you can find him on Skillest, and he's taken me from a 15 down to nearly a scratch. I'm sort of flirting between a 2 to a 0 right now to get that to a true scratch handicap. But I was down to 1.8 at certain points of the season. So hopefully I can get myself down to that 0, and he and I are working towards there. But Bill Schmedes, Mastery Golf Performance, go check him out if you are in Hilton Head. Otherwise, here are a quick laundry list of clubs to go check out. As I had mentioned, the Robert Trent Jones course at Palmetto Dunes, one of my favorites, one of the classics. Also sort of fair price for Hilton Head. Highly recommend that. One of the OG courses is Old South. It's just got sort of that intercoastal waterway, sort of backwaters feel. It's got, just old classic design. You've got the alligators out and about. Highly recommend Old South. Try to sneak in around there. Again, affordable. Right next door, and this is how I did it. I actually played a morning and an afternoon round at Old South and Hilton Head National. Hilton Head National is another sort of classic course. Old South and Hilton Head National, though, are across the waterway, and so kind of got to cross back over into Bluffton, but they're just two of the old sort of classic courses there. The other one that goes without saying in Hilton Head is Harbour Town, and then Arthur Hills, both great courses. Little on the, I guess it's the northern side of the island of Hilton Head, is Dolphin Head Golf Club. And I had a chance to play there during one of my Golf Week Amateur Tour events, National Championship events. Dolphin Head, I remember it being a pretty good deal. I know we had some like special rates when I played my practice round there that were, very fair, but also a great course option while you are in Hilton Head Island. So, any other courses you recommend? I'm trying to keep it to the public courses, but maybe we'll do a private edition somewhere down the line. But I hope you get a chance to enjoy some of these tips for a great visit to Hilton Head Island. If you do go, tell Bill I say hello and go see him for a lesson. Hopefully I'll actually have him on for a future episode, because I think I kind of want to do one that just talks about my whole personal golf journey through competitive golf and amateur golf, and where I started to where I am now, going from about a 15 when I sort of started picking up the clubs again and tried to get more serious, versus playing several times a year and that was it, and trying to get into the competitive amateur golf world. I knew I had a swing in there, and Bill has helped me to bring my game out, both from a mechanics side of thing as well as a strategy side of things. So hopefully we'll have him on in a future episode. with that, time to wrap up. Thanks for tuning in today, and hopefully you can drop some comments about what you'd like to see in the future. Appreciate the subscribe. If you're listening, feel free to check me out on YouTube if you want to see the podcast as well. Subscribe, like, star, whatever your favorite podcast or listening viewing platform is, and how it helps you show me some love. I would appreciate it. Until next time, I will see you all soon, hopefully on the course. That concludes today's episode of A Good Walk Spoiled, Adventures in Golf, hosted by Scott Poniewaz. That's myself. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to like, subscribe, rate it high, and follow us on Instagram at pony_golf to stay in the loop. Catch you next time.